Students have studied 12, 13 years in their home country, and they're ready to do something different. They're ready to see the world.
Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Study Social. My name is Rachel, and I'm your host for this series on starting your journey as an international student. Today we are talking about how to immerse yourself in a new culture and how to embrace change as an international student. You might have heard people talking about culture shock, the experience of moving from a familiar culture to one that might be unfamiliar to you. And at ONCAMPUS, we've had plenty of experience helping students adjust to their new culture and surroundings, and embracing the change as something that's a really positive part of being an international student. We have 2 guests on the podcast today, Lynda, Centre Director of ONCAMPUS UK North, and Monika, Centre Director of ONCAMPUS Lund, Sweden. Firstly though, let's hear from one of our previous students, Mariam, about how she managed to deal with the sudden change of a new environment.
When I moved to the UK to study, I think I was worried I would have a cultural shock, but I think once I settled in and got to know people, it was one of my journey highlights, I would say. I loved hearing about the country's culture and my friends' culture and how it differs from mine, and I think it was an eye-opening experience because we all come from, different countries, different backgrounds and religions, but we all accept each other the way we are, and I think to me that was beautiful. And I think in general, experiencing a new culture gave me a cultural awareness and acceptance while I was interacting with people from other backgrounds.
My first interview was with Monika Vranich, who is the Centre Director at ONCAMPUS Lund, based in Sweden. It was really useful to hear about all the ways in which staff at ONCAMPUS Lund will support students to immerse themselves in the Swedish way of life. So in today's episode, we're discussing how students can immerse themselves in a new culture and how they should be embracing change. So how do you help students adjust to their new environment?
It's all about the mindset and the attitude that you can actually prepare yourself for before you even come to Sweden or to your new destination. And I think it's about embracing the new things just because they're different. They're not bad in any way. It's all about not making that judgment, oh, this is different, this is weird, or this is better, or it's not about the judgment. It's just about being able to embrace, to have that kind of open mind, tolerance. And that also takes courage to open your mind, and be able to embrace something that is completely different from what you're used to. We keep encouraging students to take the step out. We can provide opportunities, we can provide different options, but as a student, you need to be the one to take that step, to meet someone new. And I think it's also very important as an international student, that you make friends with other nationalities, not only your own. We all want progress, we all want to improve, but without change, there is no real progress. And people are sometimes reluctant to change, but I think that our students, international students in general, are open to change. Otherwise, they wouldn't be taking this step to, come to a new country and start a new program and learn a new language or improve their language. So I do believe that by default, our students are open and willing to accept, to learn something new.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? And as you said, these students have already taken that first step into showing that they're willing to experience change. And I think at ONCAMPUS, it's just about supporting them and guiding them through that change and making sure they feel like they're not going into it alone and they've got everything they need in the centre. So I think that's really important. Exactly. So what do you think students can do to bring a bit of their own culture to a new country or a new place?
I think it's, one thing doesn't have to exclude the other thing. And I think it's important just to keep in your mind that you can embrace and become a part of a new culture without losing your own. Well, language is also nice. We think it's really nice if some students, they like to teach us some words of Russian or Chinese or Spanish or whatever. And it's really nice. And we try to teach them like in an informal way on a daily basis, some Swedish words that stick with you, that you remember. And that is so enriching. And that is amazing. This is why I love the industry. I love being a part of this. And I see this cultural mix on a daily basis. And I see the growth. I see the positive change within the people, within the staff, with the teachers. And I think it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it must be really lovely to see firsthand.
It is really.
So finally then, is there maybe a certain local tradition or phrase or something that students might not know before they come that would be really good for them to learn?
We do have something called Swedish like fika, like Fika, and I think this is fika. This is becoming more international now. I think many people know about this. So fika is basically coffee and cake, or just a break we take in the morning, for example, sometime around 10, or in the afternoon as well, sometime around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. It's just very informal. And this is something that we introduce students to during the induction week when they start.
It really embraces that kind of Swedish Scandinavian way of life where it is, as you said, nice and relaxed, and it really is to take a break from it. So I think that's a really nice representation of why students would want to come to study somewhere like Sweden.
It's a really good work and life balance. I think this is what we have that we can be proud of, as well as gender equality that I mentioned before. Like the nature, we really appreciate the nature. We appreciate just the calm life, like the easygoing life, but also productive at the same time. It's important to remember this is one of the most innovative places in the world or in Europe. So it's a good place to be.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today, Monika. It's been really lovely to get your insight into all of this sort of topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My second and final conversation is with Lynda Hannam, who is the Centre Director for ONCAMPUS UK North. I spoke to her about all the ways that her team helps students to adapt to cultural and academic changes when they arrive in Preston. So in today's episode, we're discussing how students should immerse themselves into a new culture and how they can embrace change. And one of the main things I want to discuss is that kind of culture shock. So moving from one culture to another, I guess, can be quite a surprise, and there might be a big learning experience initially, especially. So how do you help students adjust to their new environment?
The first thing we do is we gather them as a group, take them into the middle of Preston and leave them there. No, we don't. No, we don't. We do go through a week long of focused induction activities. However, induction and familiarity visits doesn't stop there. We organise little get-togethers so that the students not only meet fellow students from their groups, but also the students from other pathways. And it's not about just embracing the British culture and the British way of life. It's about the diversity and the multiculturalism that the UK has to offer.
So what about academic culture shock then? Because obviously it can be quite a different experience studying in the UK compared to a lot of other countries. How might this be different?
First of all, I would say that we have to remember that our teaching staff are professionals and experts, and their classes and their lectures are designed to include each of the different nationalities and embed that differentiation. So I would say, come with an open mind, be ready to embrace, but be ready to share. And that's in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. Lots of differentiation, lots of feedback from students. We're listening to students all the time so that we are delivering to your expectations.
Yeah, I think that's great to hear. And I know one of the things that maybe I've noticed when I've spoken to students in the past is how surprised they are, I guess, at how maybe a lesson runs. So just the structure of a lesson, how different this might be, how much their input and their voice counts in an on-campus UK North class. Their point can be just as valid as maybe the teacher's point, which might not necessarily have been the case in their previous studies. So I think being listened to, being able to establish their own kind of voice is something that I think is a really key part of coming to on campus.
I remember distinctly when I was delivering in the class, and I would often say to the students, right, this is what we think. And the first thing I would do, turn around to the class and say, now tell me I'm wrong. And if you can give me evidence or justify your opinion, I'll take it. And that is something that is inbuilt and embedded into our lessons. It's about your knowledge and your understanding, your application. It's how you apply it. That's what we're looking for.
So finally then, what is your best advice for embracing change?
Be prepared to laugh. Be prepared to laugh at yourself and with other people, and be prepared to share. I would say to embrace change, be prepared to laugh, because change isn't, I've said that, so you do that. It's about that experience, and that's how you get effective change.
I think it's such a nice thing to end on, don't take it too seriously. You're going to experience so much change in this time of your life, and you really have to be lighthearted about it, enjoy it. Nothing's going to be so bad that you can't come back from it. So I think just to laugh is, a lovely way to end this episode. So thank you very much, Lynda. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks very much to both our guests today, and we really hope you've enjoyed this episode. Listen out for next week for our final episode of the season, when we'll be giving advice on study tips and achieving success. Follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Study Social Podcast, and check out our Instagram at The Study Social Pod. See you next week.